Have you ever pondered what lies at the heart of the Israel-Palestine conflict, one of the world's most enduring and contentious issues? To comprehend the root of this conflict, we need to journey back in time to the ancient history of this region. The land known today as Israel and Palestine has held a profound significance for a multitude of cultures and religions for millennia. The Jewish people trace their roots back to Abraham, who is believed to have settled in this land around 4,000 years ago. Similarly, the Arab populations also claim ancestral ties to this region, citing their descent from Ishmael, Abraham's first son. Fast forward to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, two significant movements emerged that would forever shape the course of this region's history. On one side we have Zionism, a Jewish nationalist movement that sought to establish a homeland for the Jewish people in response to centuries of persecution. Theodor Herzl, often regarded as the father of modern political Zionism, envisioned a sovereign Jewish state in the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people. On the other side we see the rise of Arab nationalism, a movement aiming to unite the Arab world under one flag and one identity. This movement was a response to the crumbling Ottoman Empire and the encroaching European colonial powers. It sought to assert the rights and independence of the Arab people, including those living in the land of Palestine. These two movements, Zionism and Arab nationalism, were not just political ideologies. They were profound expressions of identity, deeply rooted in history, culture, and religion. And they both laid claim to the same piece of land. The land that was home to ancient temples and mosques, the land of prophets and kings, the land that held deep emotional and spiritual significance for both Jews and Arabs. The stage was set for a clash of national identities, a conflict over land and identity that continues to this day. The end of World War II brought a new dynamic to the Middle East as the Jewish state of Israel was born. Let's travel back to the early 20th century. In 1917, amidst the chaos of World War I, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration, expressing its support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This was a turning point that brought the Zionist movement, which sought a homeland for Jews, into the international spotlight. Fast forward to the late 1930s and early 1940s. The world was shattered by the atrocities of the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews were systematically murdered. The horrors of this genocide further intensified the call for a Jewish homeland, a safe haven where Jews would never again be victims of such unspeakable violence. The end of World War II saw the world grappling with the aftermath of the Holocaust. It was in this context that the United Nations proposed a partition plan in 1947. This plan aimed to divide Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem under international administration. The Jewish Agency for Palestine accepted the plan, while the Arab League and Palestinian Arab leaders rejected it, fearing the loss of Arab majority in Palestine. On May 14, 1948, the Jewish Agency declared the establishment of the State of Israel, a moment that was met with jubilation by Jews worldwide. However, the birth of Israel was seen as a catastrophe, or Nakba, by the Palestinian Arabs, who were now displaced from their homes and lands. These events had profound impacts on both the Jewish and Arab populations of Palestine. The birth of Israel offered a refuge for Jews, a place to call home after centuries of persecution. Yet for Palestinian Arabs, it represented the loss of their homeland, a national trauma that continues to shape their identity and struggle till this day. The establishment of Israel marked a significant turning point in the Israel-Palestine conflict. This was a new chapter, one that set the stage for the complex, intense struggles that continue to unfold in this small yet deeply significant piece of land. The birth of Israel was not a peaceful event. It marked the beginning of a series of wars and uprisings. The echoes of these conflicts still resonate today, mapping out the contours of the Israel-Palestine conflict. The first significant war erupted in 1948, immediately after Israel's declaration of independence. This conflict, often referred to as the War of Independence or Nakba, depending on who you ask, set the stage for the tensions that would follow. Fast forward to 1967, and we find ourselves in the midst of the Six-Day War. A seemingly swift conflict, yet its impact was anything but fleeting. In less than a week, Israel managed to seize control of the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. The territorial gains from this war dramatically reshaped the map of the Middle East and deepened the divides between Israel and Palestine. Another 20 years on, and we arrive at the First Intifada in 1987. This was a predominantly Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. The uprising was characterized by widespread civil disobedience, strikes, boycotts, and clashes with Israeli forces. The scenes of stone-throwing Palestinian youths confronting armed soldiers became iconic images of the struggle. Fast forward again to the year 2000 and the Second Intifada erupts. This uprising was far more violent than the first, with suicide bombings and military operations becoming commonplace. The human cost was tremendous, with thousands of lives lost on both sides. It's essential to remember that these wars and uprisings are not just historical events. They represent the loss of lives and livelihoods, the displacement of families, and the shattering of dreams. They are a testament to the human capacity for endurance in the face of unimaginable hardship. These wars and uprisings have left deep scars on both sides and have shaped the course of the Israel-Palestine conflict. As we delve further into this complex history, it's crucial to keep in mind the real human cost of these events. Despite the enduring conflict, there have been attempts to broker peace between Israel and Palestine. Let's journey back in time to 1978 at the Camp David in Maryland. Here, the first significant step towards peace was made, known as the Camp David Accords. This agreement marked the first time an Arab nation, Egypt, officially recognized Israel. However, it was a bilateral agreement, and it didn't directly address the Palestinian issue, leaving a crucial piece of the puzzle unresolved. Fast forward to 1993, and we find ourselves in Norway for the Oslo Accords. This marked a monumental shift, as it was the first direct agreement between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO. The accord established the Palestinian Authority, giving Palestinians self-rule in parts of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Yet, the challenges of defining borders and addressing the status of Jerusalem were left for future negotiations, creating an unfinished tapestry of peace. Then came the turn of the millennium, the year 2000, and another attempt at Camp David. This time, the stakes were high. The goal was to address the unresolved issues from Oslo, including the status of Jerusalem, borders, and refugees. Unfortunately, the summit ended without an agreement, marking a momentous disappointment in the peace process. Each of these initiatives, though significant, had their successes and failures. The Camp David Accords brought peace between Israel and Egypt, but left the Palestinian question unanswered. The Oslo Accords established some form of Palestinian self-rule, yet left critical issues unresolved. The 2000 Camp David Summit tried to address these issues but ended in stalemate. These attempts at peace shed light on the complexity of the Israel-Palestine conflict. They highlight the intricate interplay of history, politics, and emotions that make this issue so challenging to resolve. Yet despite the setbacks, the pursuit of peace is undeterred. The road to peace has been fraught with obstacles, but the quest for a resolution continues. And as we journey through this complex history, we remain hopeful for a future where peace is not just an attempt, but a reality. In the present day, the Israel-Palestine conflict continues, but the landscape of the struggle has evolved. With the passage of time, the nature of this age-old conflict has transformed, reflecting the changes on the world stage. We see a shift from multi-party negotiations to unilateral actions, a trend that has been increasingly prevalent in recent years. This shift signifies a departure from the traditional peace process, which sought to bring all parties together to negotiate a resolution. Instead, we're witnessing individual actions being taken, often with little regard for their implications on the broader peace process. International diplomacy, once a cornerstone in the quest for a solution, now plays a less predictable role. The global community's stance on the conflict is far from unanimous, with some nations siding with Israel, others with Palestine, and many remaining neutral. This fractured international response has added another layer of complexity to the situation. The impact of the conflict on everyday life in Israel and Palestine is profound. On one hand, Israelis face the constant threat of rocket attacks and live with the fear of a potential war. On the other hand, Palestinians endure daily life under occupation, with restricted movement, limited access to resources, and the omnipresent threat of violence. The conflict has also seeped into the cultural fabric of both societies. It influences their art, literature, music, and even their education systems, shaping the narratives and perceptions of generations. The psychological toll is immense, with trauma and fear being constant companions for many. In the midst of all this, there are glimmers of hope. Grassroots initiatives for peace, dialogue, and coexistence spring up, trying to bridge the divide. Yet these efforts often get overshadowed by the overarching political narrative and the cycle of violence. Today, the Israel-Palestine conflict stands at a crossroads, with the path to a peaceful resolution still uncertain. The complexity of the current situation underscores the need for a renewed commitment to dialogue, understanding, and mutual respect. As we move forward, it's clear that the path to peace will require patience, resilience, and above all, a shared vision for a future where both Israelis and Palestinians can live in dignity and peace.